Can you guys hear us okay? In San Marcos, can y'all hear us? Okay, cool, great. Okay, so I do have one question before we start. Are you guys, oh, you are controlling this thing, perfect. Okay, great. All right, so exercise and emotional wellness is our topic today. You can go to the first slide and we'll look at the outline. Is that control over there? Yeah. Perfect, yes, perfect. Thank you, okay. So just to introduce the idea is we've got 8 dimensions of wellness as defined by WellCats. And so we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about emotional wellness and physical activity recommendations. And then we're going to talk about the different ways in which physical activity and exercise benefit emotional wellness. And we'll kind of break it down into a couple different aspects of ways in which that relationship works. So the benefits include physiological benefits, sleep and energy, depression, anxiety, and stress, cognition, self-esteem, and social benefits. And you can click to the next slide. So the dimensions of wellness, as also defined by WellCats, is nutrition, physical, occupational, environmental, financial, social, and emotional, spiritual, and intellectual. And next. So for emotional wellness, the definition, again on the WellCats website, is having rich and meaningful connections with people in our lives, creating a support system, and being self-aware enough to comfortably accept life's challenges while maintaining a positive perspective. So a little wordy, but really what it comes down to is being able to adapt your emotional responses based on what's happening around you, and when you do come up against challenges in your life, that you are able to sort of regulate your emotional reactions to those things, and be able to, first of all, be aware of the emotional reactions that you're having, and then be able to positively impact those. So there are, according to the National Institutes of Health, there are 6 strategies for improving emotional wellness, which is to brighten your outlook. So that's kind of having a positive attitude and just understanding that you do have some control over things that happen in your life, and having a positive outlook on that. Reducing stress, always very important. As we know, stress leads to a lot of negative emotional responses and can exacerbate already things that are already weighing on your emotional life. Being able to cope with loss. So again, knowing that things are going to happen and being able to recognize when those things affect you, and then seeking out ways in which to cope with those issues. Getting quality sleep, we know that that also is very impactful on your emotional as well as your physical health. And then strengthen social connections and be mindful. So social connections, you know, it's your family, your friends, your workmates, you know, anybody that you have a community with. We are social beings, so we like being in community, and it is helpful to have a group dynamic that you know you can rely on people and they can rely on you. And then being mindful is, again, going back to that awareness component. So understanding that when you have an emotional reaction, you have to kind of be able to name that emotion, understand that it's happening, and then you can do something about it. And next slide. So for physical wellness, the definition, again, on the WellCats website, is the adoption of healthy physical habits such as exercise and plentiful sleep, and the avoidance of unhealthy activities such as smoking and consuming an unhealthy diet. So we all have a general idea of what good physical health entails. You know, eating right, getting good exercise, getting good sleep, These are all things that are impactful on your physical health. And so there's, again, a lot of different avenues that we can address physical well-being. And next slide. So as far as physical activity goes, there are specific guidelines that the Department of Health and Human Services puts out, and that would be 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity a week and 2 days of strength training a week. And that's global strength. So that's, you know, all the major muscle groups. And then there is an addendum, so if you do more high intensity exercise, then it can be for 75 minutes a week. So it kind of cuts it in half. And then, so it says that at the bottom there, you can see. And then there was a sort of adjustment made recently that talks about breaking it up over the course of your week. So they really highlight the importance of movement consistently throughout your day, throughout your week. So rather than doing a 3-hour workout in one day, really getting up during the day and moving around and breaking up the periods of time that you're spent sedentary or sitting. You can go to the next slide. So one way to test whether or not the exercise that you're doing is moderate or vigorous is to do the talk test. So if you can still speak, but you feel that you're still breathing hard, but you're able to speak, then that's more moderate intensity. If you can't really speak while you're doing the activity, then that's going to be more vigorous intensity exercise. And understanding that what counts as physical activity is broad. It's not just you have to go to the gym, you have to run, you have to, swim 5 miles, whatever. You really can count the things that you do in your daily life and the things that you're interested in. So if you have a dog and you like to walk your dog after dinner at night, that counts as physical activity. If you're an avid gardener and you spend a lot of time, doing your lawn or planting and digging, that's going to be physical activity. So really tailoring it to your life and things that you find interesting is important because it does help to keep you motivated and keep you consistent with your activity. And next slide.
Okay, so now we're going to go into a little bit about the specific benefits of physical activity and how they contribute to emotional wellness. So the first one, going on to the next slide, is going off of the physiology of exercise. So I'm sure most of us have heard of endorphins, which are released naturally when we exercise. They are sometimes referred to as feel-good hormones. And structurally, they're similar to morphine. And the way that they work is they block pain signals to the brain. So this is the same mechanism by which pain medications work. And so when they block pain, they're able to increase feelings of euphoria and well-being. So if you've ever done a really tough workout and afterwards you kind of felt like excessively happy for no reason, that was probably endorphins. You're like, I shouldn't feel this good. No. So they help decrease the perception of pain, like I said. And some studies have actually shown that the more intense the physical activity that you're doing, the more release of endorphins you'll get. So doing a HIIT class, which is a high intensity interval training workout, will actually lead to more endorphins. So something to consider, but any sort of physical activity can trigger the release of endorphins and make you feel good. And that will obviously contribute to your emotional state as well. So other things about exercise, we know that regular exercise can increase your good cholesterol or HDL. It also can decrease triglycerides and your bad cholesterol or LDL. And then it helps prevent the development of chronic diseases. So these are things like heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, and certain cancers. And in older adults specifically, exercise can help decrease your risk of falls. And it can also help you maintain healthy bones. So as you age, this decreases your risk of having a fracture if you fall or developing things like osteoporosis. So the reason that this relates to emotional health is that sometimes when we're exercising, we can kind of lose track of all of the good things that we're doing for our body by exercising. So it can help, if we're having a day where you're not really feeling very motivated to exercise, to just reflect briefly on, I'm doing all these great things for myself and I should, give myself a little pat on the back, and that can make you feel maybe a little bit more motivated or just more aware of all of the benefits of the physical activity that you've been doing. So something to keep in mind. Don't forget to reflect back on what you're doing by exercising. Moving on to energy and fatigue. So this one is a little bit counterintuitive. Most people would think that by regularly exercising, you're going to become more tired because obviously you're expending energy and you're burning more calories. However, the opposite is true. So when we look at it from a physiological perspective, and this is when you're exercising for a prolonged period of time, it can actually increase your lung and aerobic capacity. And this basically just means that the body becomes more efficient at delivering oxygen throughout the body. So there's more oxygen getting to the brain, throughout the bloodstream, and to the muscles. So this is going to result in more energy. The best example of this is if you imagine you live on like the 3rd floor of an apartment building. If you are not physically active, by the time you get to the top of those stairs, you feel like a little winded. And then after a couple of months of exercising, you might find by the time you get to the top of the stairs that you can still talk, or you're okay, or you're not as out of breath as you used to be. And this is because there's just more oxygen flowing to the muscles. Obviously, you also have improved muscular strength and endurance. This example, kind of think of you're going to the top of those 3 flights of stairs and you're carrying like bags of groceries. So you might have to stop on the 2nd floor and put them down, like shake out your muscles. But then after you've been working out, you can make it all the way to the top, you know, hold those grocery bags strong, not worry about it. So these are benefits that happen after exercising for a prolonged period of time. And then if we look at it on a cellular level, the mitochondria, which you might remember from high school bio, is the powerhouse of the cell.
Yes.
And so the mitochondria function to produce ATP, which is an energy molecule in the body. And this is the molecule that fuels our energy systems. So the more mitochondria you have, the more energy that you have. And through regular exercise, your body actually makes more mitochondria. So it's able to produce more ATP, so you have more energy. And then with this improved energy, this can help fight chronic fatigue. So if you're feeling too tired to work out, just remind yourself of this, that you might feel tired now, but after exercise, you'll actually feel energized. And we'll talk a little bit more about this when we talk about sleep specifically. So now, depression, anxiety, and stress, I'm going to pass this off to Dr. Schmidt and Sam Marcus to talk a little bit about the benefits of physical activity when it comes to depression and stress.
Thank you. Yes, they did a great job. Aren't these slides great?
Yes.
They're great. This is maybe the best slides I've ever seen. It's a great slide. Yeah, and really, you know, you may know from, or may have heard from, even sometimes when people use certain drugs, the consequence of using that drug is the release of endorphins. And the problem with that is when you release your natural endorphins that way, you deplete your natural endorphins. So after you use the drug, you tend to end up feeling worse than you did. And so people then use the drug to feel better, right? And so you get to a point where instead of achieving a high, you end up trying to get back to normal. And that's really one of the aspects of addiction. And so what exercise does for you is that it causes a natural release of those endorphins, and you actually feel better, ironically, as a result of exercise, even though you don't feel better while you're exercising. Everybody knows that, right? The benefit is it's kind of like saving money. It doesn't feel good when you're doing it, but later you appreciate the payoff. And yes, vigorous exercise has been shown in numerous studies to improve mood. And generally speaking, for all kinds of things. We're focused on depression here, but all kinds of mood disorders can be positively impacted by exercise. And so if your mood is better, you tend to be in better attitude, better spirits, you tend to cope better, deal with stress. I mean, all of those benefits start coming together. And so by changing that and changing the way you engage your environment, you're actually decreasing the stress over the long term because you've changed something about yourself, even though you can't always change that annoying person in the office or family member who keeps borrowing money, right? But you do change how you feel about that. Exercising can take your mind off stress and negative thought patterns. I know when I exercise, I see a lot of people. I guess I've kind of stopped saying hi to people nowadays because everybody seems to have earbuds in. When I exercise, I don't like earbuds. I just like to be out. I like to exercise outside. I like to be out where I can randomly think about things or notice things. Some people like to exercise with earbuds. Whatever those things are, those are distractions for you, whether you're paying attention to how your body feels, whether you're listening to your favorite music or listening to a podcast or whatever it is that you like to do. Those are just things that take you away. So you're getting an escape while you're exercising and doing that, but also you're getting the benefit of the exercise physiologically. Rather than, compare that to going to a movie where you get the escape, but you're sitting down and you're eating popcorn and drinking a soda. Exercise can be a positive coping strategy for dealing with stress, as I mentioned, and it may lead to the adoption of other healthy behaviors as well. The research is pretty clear that people who tend to exercise tend to eat better. All of those things blend from one phase of your life to others. And stress depletes the brain, whereas physical activity improves cognition and focus. When you're, one of the problems with stress is that it tends to be more chronic than acute. When people are stressed about something, it tends to be an ongoing thing. It's a problem outside of themselves often that they can't, or it could be inside, but a problem that often you can't solve or address. You don't have the skills to do that. And so it wears on you over time. And that depletes energy, it depletes, it affects your mood and all those types of things, which then affects how well you can deal with the stressor. So you can see how that cycle can get started. But exercise and physical activity can impact all of those. Any questions on that?
Okay, so moving on to sleep. The exact mechanism behind how exercise improves sleep is not 100% certain, but research has shown that regular moderate intensity aerobic exercise has the ability to improve your sleep quality, and it can also help you fall asleep faster. Just not really exactly sure how. So some explanations are that, like I mentioned earlier, exercise has the ability to give you energy long-term by, again, improving oxygenation and all those kinds of things. But in the short term, exercise does cause you to burn more calories, thus potentially making you more tired at the end of the day. So if you're more tired at the end of the day, it's a little bit easier to fall asleep. And exercise can help to decrease arousal and anxiety, making it easier to fall asleep. So this kind of goes back to what Eric was speaking about, is that it just takes your mind off of whatever it is that you're worried about. And so just that little, hour break or so from constantly worrying and stressing can help you fall asleep at the end of the day. And specifically to those of us who like to exercise in the evening or before going to bed, research has shown that while you exercise, the core body temperature increases. And then over the following 30 to 90 minutes, the core body temperature will naturally decrease. And this is a mechanism that actually signals the body to go to sleep. So if you're able to work out about an hour and a half to 2 hours before you would normally go to bed, that natural decrease in body temperature can help you fall asleep. So those are some things to consider. Not all of us can work out at that time of day, but if it's possible, it might help you fall asleep. Moving on to cognition. So we're going to talk a little bit about how cognition can improve thinking and memory and how it can also help to prevent cognitive decline. So specific to memory and thinking, research has shown that regular exercise is actually able to increase the size of the hippocampus, which is a part of the brain that's involved with learning and long-term memory. It also increases the size of the prefrontal cortex, which is at the front of the brain, and this is a part of the brain that controls thinking, decision-making, and short-term memory. And then generally, exercise helps to stimulate chemicals in the brain that can keep those brain cells healthy and alive longer. So all of these improvements will allow you to have better memory, both long and short term, and lead to improved thinking. So you're able to think better on the fly and also have more long-term memory. So those are more direct effects of physical activity. Indirectly, as we've spoken about already, we know that exercise can improve your sleep and your mood and has the ability to decrease stress and anxiety. So the less stressed you are, the more happy you are, the better your cognition is going to be. I'm sure we've all been in situations where we've been stressed and just felt like we couldn't think straight and everything kind of gets blurry. So the less stress and anxiety we have, the better our cognition is going to be overall. And then one thing that I found was interesting, in studies with children, they found that those who are physically active performed better on verbal, perceptual, and math tests than sedentary children. So there's clearly something going on with exercise that can improve cognition, not only in adults, but in children as well. So going on to prevention of cognitive decline, we all know that as we age, there's a natural cognitive decline that occurs. But research has shown that physical activity is actually able to prevent this cognitive decline, and it reduces the risk of developing dementia as you age and can improve the quality of life in older adults. The way this happens is there are two reserves. So the brain reserve is natural protection over the anatomy of the brain, and this is inherent in everyone. There's also a cognitive reserve, which provides protection over the nerve connections in the brain. And basically through exercise, both of these reserves are preserved longer. So as you age, these reserves naturally decay, which can lead to issues with cognition, but exercise can help stave off that decline. And if we recall back to the beginning with the physiology, we know there's more oxygen going to the brain, so that can also help prevent cognitive decline long term as well.
All right, so we're going to talk about self-esteem and physical activity. And it's been shown that physical activity improves global self-esteem in adults. And their thinking is that there's kind of this three-pronged approach to that, is that it assists with perceptions of self-efficacy, physical competence, and physical appearance acceptance, or your physical body acceptance. Self-efficacy is defined as a conviction that one can successfully execute the behavior required to produce the outcomes, and that's according to the health belief model. And so that basically just means that you believe that you can do something that's going to enact change on your life. And so, step one, if you don't actually think that your actions are going to cause any positive change, then you're probably not going to engage in those actions. So it has been shown that physical activity and sort of seeing the progression of your abilities through physical activity can really assist with that understanding that what you're doing is making a difference. And then physical competence, it's just understanding that you are strong enough to pick up your grocery bag off the floor and carry it up those 3 flights of stairs, and that you're not going to, tire out or need assistance with that. That's something that you have individual autonomy over. And then physical acceptance, a lot of our wellness, again, our emotional wellness is tied to our feelings of social acceptance. Like we talked about before, having that social connectivity is really important as human beings. And so, your feelings of how you are in your body and how your body is appreciated by other people in your social circles can have a big impact on your emotional wellness. And so physical activity, it increases those feelings of, feeling healthy and feeling comfortable in your body. And a lot of times we can pair physical activity with mindful activities. And so that really gives you a sense of where you are in your physicality and being able to kind of feel things that are happening in your body and understand what's going on. And then also, there were studies in children that showed that moderate to vigorous physical activity is significantly associated with higher self-esteem in children and adolescents. And it's for all those same reasons, and especially when it comes to the social aspects of it. It's how they are seen by their peers and having the self-esteem to assert themselves in like group sports and activities such as that. So next we're going to talk about the social benefits, as we've alluded to a number of times. So physical activity can lead to less stress and anxiety and contributes to better social relationships. So if you're feeling less stressed out in general, then you tend to be a much more accepting person when it comes to other people around you. There was that example of not being annoyed with your, team member that says things that you don't like or whatever. You just tend to have a lot higher threshold when it comes to things that annoy or displease you. And that can make you a better person to be around. There is also evidence that higher self-esteem leads to more confidence in social interactions, and we just talked about how physical activity can lead to higher self-esteem. And then there are associations with an active group of people can provide motivation and community. So just as we were talking about with other forms of social connectivity, you might find that through going to your aerobics class at the Y, you meet a lot of like-minded people, people that are interested in the same things as you, and you can build relationships in that way, which has the added benefit of keeping you more motivated and wanting to go. I teach a Pilates class on Saturday mornings, and it's been the same group of 6 women in that class for probably 4 years. And they are dedicated because they hold each other accountable. You know, if one of them's not there, then somebody else knows exactly where they are and why they aren't there that morning. So they help hold you accountable. So in summary, exercise can benefit just about every aspect of wellness. And so, you know, obviously we know a lot about the physical ramifications of exercise, but it has added benefits to emotional, psychological, mental, and social dimensions as well. Being mindful of these benefits and tracking them can help increase your level of physical activity because you can see the benefits and you can see how engaging in these activities really does add value to your life. And then noticing the changes that you see in all aspects of your well-being is really important because it just helps you to realize that engaging in these behaviors is going to benefit long-term. So we would like to have a little discussion amongst yourselves. So we're going to do just a small group activity. So you can spend a few minutes thinking about this and writing down a couple of ideas before you talk to your neighbor. But we just want you to brainstorm about ways that you can be physically active in your daily life. So some things to think about are times that are convenient for you. And again, like we talked about earlier, it's not that you have to take an entire hour chunk out of your day. It's, you know, do I have 10 minutes in between this activity and this activity? And I choose to take the stairs and, you know, take a walk around the courtyard during that time. Or, you know, the 30 minutes before you have to go pick your kids up from school, or whatever it is, just trying to figure out the times in your day that you can take advantage of that time and be physically active. Also thinking about activities that you enjoy. Again, like we talked about, physical activity can be anything that gets your heart rate going and gets you moving. So things that you already are interested in tend to be really good candidates for physical activity that's going to keep you motivated. And then getting your peers involved, so building that social connection. So if you have, you know, a friend that you want to bring with you to a class, maybe thinking about that. Or if you already know a bunch of people that have a running group or a walking group or bike ride, you know, thinking of how you can get involved in things like this. So just take a minute, write a couple ideas down, and then turn to the person next to you, and you can talk about that for a second. Share your brainstorm.
While people watch on the people over here and let you know if they're brainstorming.
That's right.
They're not on TV yet.
Yeah.
No, I'm good. I wrote down. I'm lonely. Like nobody talks to me anyway. So.
You're self-care.
I know.
Actually, these are our 2 new DIAs.
Jane, nice to meet you. Hi,
Yeah.
There's a third one. Who's actually teaching them to, but she's not.
Okay, good. I tried to make it.
It's awesome.
It's been fun. Done all kinds of stuff.
The other side and the other side.
You seem to continue on. But I'm trying to recruit other people.
We don't know.
You know, really show you realize the benefits.
I don't.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that working.
I'm one of the oldest people.
You're here, especially. I don't think it.
And it's hard to tell the young people, hey, it's a lifetime journey. You don't start sometimes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's harder to start later.
It's a lot harder.
Yeah.
It's almost like preaching to the choir because y'all.
So that I can get off.
I don't know. My son wants to learn to become another bus. So I have one lawyer, one engineer. All they need is one of them to marry a dentist. That'll be all right.
Afterward, just so you know, like, it's better than
I'm the director of technology and expertise and just about everything else here. Everything the boss doesn't want to do, which.
I wish I could go.
I also teach for.
I'm dealing with that a lot. Again.
Because I'm working.
Like I remember Dr. Smith when he first got here. 23 years ago.
Wow, really? Oh, wow.
I think it's an interesting journey, but it'd be nice to get more people in the 20s or 30s. But we know we're gonna build that big gym downstairs and the field outside. I've been telling them.
You play volleyball?
I played a lot of beach volleyball because I went to University of Hawaii.
Oh,
For a
wow.
long period of time. So community college, design college, and it's 2 beach volleyball arrangement between the 2 teams. That's the defining factor. Students want to go and tour the building and look at the teaching environment. They're like, where's the volleyball? Yeah, I mean, and then we could like challenge A&M and HCC. And it's super fun and
I'm just in time.
I really want the sand.
Something before I have to walk.
Beach volleyball, but it looks like at best we can get just grass.
It's not.
Soccer field, mini golf, mini frisbee. You know. Oh, but one other thing when we were touring the field, because I was out there touring, we should have a kite competition. It's always windy. Yeah, I can see the competition, you see all like the bamboo and stuff like that, and the string, and the it's almost like Mythbusters and duct tape. If you need more than this, give them 1 hour.
More that for me.
But it'd be just so fun just to do that because the Zilko part.
I think we just.
And we can do the same thing as
Yes.
Are you all still students?
So far.
Yeah, I would love to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
Take one or some other, just we could invite the fellow universities.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
idea.
Like, I just wanna,
You know.
yeah, fun.
Yeah.
I don't know what I should do.
So I also like crochet. That would be so. Out there by the pond.
Go for it, yeah.
People like some kind of, at least for old bocce ball, they have that national, they have a huge bocce ball.
Yeah.
Come to my in-laws for work.
Just kids like scare in games.
He goes, if you take some up, it's just.
Oh, shuffleboard, shuffleboard, I got the.
In the world.
Yeah. Shuffleboard on your.
It's always like a boys running around.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's like you have.
Yeah. So, it's nice.
It's not too complicated. I think it's like a slow walk.
There it is.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody else always scores
Yeah, that was like the whole.
It's like shopping
mall.
Yeah.
Alright,
So
now
shifted because I'm thinking, how can I get this job?
Hey Eric, how's it going over there?
They're going, wait, I think we're just waiting on y'all to see where you are.
Okay, well, great. I was gonna see if we could kind of come back together and if people want to share things that they came up with in their pairs or on their own, then they can share.
Y'all want to share?
Does anyone want to share? Share their ideas?
I think just shutting off the TV and going for a walk with your dog.
Yeah.
Dog like it.
Yeah,
That's a really good one.
I have one. My wife works on the 10th floor and has never seen the inside of the elevator in this building.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think on this campus, and I think that would be a good, when we go to hotels or whatever, the first thing we do is find the stairway. And I think that's, especially on this campus, I think it's a great opportunity on this campus to do a lot of physical activities, a lot of walking and climbing opportunities. And so it sounds weird at first, but just climbing the stairs and walking where you're going, I think would be a great start. It takes time to change those types of behaviors, but it's a great start.
That's great, yeah. We have a professor who always talks about how she has lifelong been the person who finds the farthest parking space from wherever she's going, and she's, shared that with her kids, and so now her kids, they do the same thing. So, yeah. Anybody else brave out there want to share their ideas?
Is time a difficult one for people? Yeah.
Yes.
I have a private practice here in town. I work with couples, and I work with some couples dealing with infidelity. And always I hear from couples that they don't have time to spend together, or to be intimate, or make time. But in these situations, the couples I work with, one person always seems to be able to find time to be with a partner outside.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, right? You meet somebody outside the relationship. You have to fit that person into your life, and somehow they always manage to do that. and so I use that statement to say that, and I use this with couples to say the time is there. You've demonstrated that you can cut out time when something becomes important to you. And so to sit down and look at your life and cut out that time because it's important to you.
Yeah. Prioritization is important. Yeah, did anybody have kind of come up with a time in their day that they felt like would be like a good couple of minutes that they could take advantage of, or maybe nothing else was going on? Lunchtime?
I commute from Kyle to Round Rock, so it's like, oh man, I'm tired.
Yeah. By the time you get home, you're like, I don't want to do anything else. Yeah. That's good though, to recognize that and know that lunchtime is your magic time. Yeah, that's good.
I think 8 p.m. in the evening when it's cooler and sidewalks aren't as hot for your pet, you can get them out and walk.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we deal with that in Texas.
Yes.
For sure.
I certainly have plenty of time in the morning if I could actually make myself get up in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, those are hard habits to change too, I think. For sure. But then the benefit is you don't have to think about it the rest of the day, right? Then you're done with it and you know you've done it, and that is almost like a better feeling of satisfaction. You know that you've already accomplished something early. Good.
I realized I could go to water aerobics class at the JCC after work that's at a good time, and just if I can plan for it so that I can change there maybe
eat a little something because it is after work and I always use the obstacle of, oh, I'm too hungry or I'm too tired or something. But if I plan and prepare for it, I could do that once a week.
That's great, yeah. That brings up a really good point too, is knowing the obstacles before you start behavior, before you start the plan, put the plan in action, understanding the things that you already know are gonna be good excuses later on and planning to curb those. Yeah, that's a really good point.
I know a lot of people have kids, and children often become a barrier to having time. I know for us, we give our kids specific limited periodic screen time. And so we know while they're doing screen time, a fire could be going on around them. They will not stop. So we take that time to go for a walk. We'll go out just in the neighborhood for a 30-minute walk while they do their screen time. It's just an opportunity to cut that out. They're doing something already. We know they're okay, and it gives us a chance to, and it gives us a chance to, that social relationship part too. It gives a chance for my wife and I. Yeah, to hang out.
Yeah, and I think another way to incorporate kids into your physical life is if there are activities that you know that your kids enjoy doing that are physical activities, to do all those together as a family, because it can kind of help reinforce that for them, and starting those habits young is really great and important.
Yeah, and so we know our kids can't keep up with us walking. What we do is we got them a couple of scooters, and they take the scooters out, and while we're walking, and we just thought they go in front of us and behind us and whatever, but they're moving around too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I guess we'll just end with opening it up to everyone for questions. If you wanted to ask us or Eric in San Marcos, we'll just sort of leave it open. Anything that we talked about, or it can be unrelated, just generally about exercise or emotional wellness. Erin and I are physical therapist students, so we can answer any questions sort of relating to that topic, and then Eric can give you some more information about emotional wellness, stuff like that. We just did such a good job explaining.
And there's something I do want to share with you that's called reframing. If you imagine a picture, right, and you take that picture, you take the frame off, and you put another frame on it, it changes that picture, the appearance of that picture. So one example is my wife has this thing where she likes to spend time with me. I don't know. It's kind of sometimes quite a bit of time. I'm not really understanding that. So in one hand, I could say, you know what, I feel crowded or something, right? But to reframe that, I just say, you know what, I'm glad she wants to spend time with me and not somebody else.
Right.
So that's an example of a reframe where you take a situation and you put it in a different frame and you view it in a different way, and it changes how you engage and respond and initiate that thing. So if you can take physical activity and put a different frame around it, one that will help you view it in a different way, that can also make you more likely to engage in it.
Okay, I want to share. I just finished a book. It's called Molecule of Emotion, and it dealt with how your internal psyche affects your overall health. It's written by a PhD in genetics, and it was really, really a phenomenal book to read. And so I just thought I would share that since I just finished that book.
Can you repeat the name of it?
Molecule of Emotion.
Awesome.
I get no royalties from that either.
They did not pay you for that.
Another reason to use Amazon Prime.
Well, if there's no questions, I think we're good then.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Yeah,
Thank you, Dr. Schmidt.
Thanks, Dr. Schmidt, for joining us.
Of course. Good job.
Very nicely done.
Thanks, guys. All right, well, enjoy the rest of your day.
Right on.
You know, it's so nice to meet
Hey, Dr. Schmidt,
you.
Lou here.
That- It's been a long time.
He was like, okay, welcome around Rock today, you're gonna be our contact. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be our contact.
Alright.
So we're already ready.
So, yeah,
September
you just have to
4th,
hit the,
summary,
yeah,
our
maybe.
library calendar.
So super easy.
Okay, anything else, y'all?